All right, so before we do the next problem, so number 3, I want to go over how to read our unit circle. All right, so again, this is a unit circle. And so what this means is that the radius of this circle is 1. So this is the distance 1, which makes sense that the x value right here is 1. So this is the point 1, 0. All right, this is also distance 1, so that is why the y value is 1, and this is the point 0, 1. All right, we also have the point 0, negative 1, and negative 1, 0. All right, and so remember, whenever we're reading on a unit circle, all right, all of our points, x comma y, are the same as cosine of our angle, comma, sine of our angle. All right, so for example, let's look at this point right here, root 3 over 2, 1/2. All right, here's our angle. So this right here represents the 30-degree angle, or in radians, pi over 6. All right, and so that means that cosine of pi over 6 should be the x value right here. Cosine of pi over 6 is root 3 over 2, and sine of pi over 6 is 1/2. All right, so we're going to answer some questions where we use this unit circle, and you'll get the hang of it if you've never used one before. All right, so it says use the x, y coordinates in the unit circle to find the value of each trig function at the given number. All right, so let's start with cosine of 3 pi over 2. So we want to look on our unit circle for the angle 3 pi over 2. All right, and so that is down here at the bottom. So this is 3 pi over 2. Here's the point that corresponds with that. And we were asked to find cosine. All right, so we know cosine of our angle is just the x value. So cosine of 3 pi over 2 is 0. All right, next we want to find tangent of 11 pi over 6. So we're going to look for 11 pi over 6 on our unit circle. All right, so I found it. 11 pi over 6 is right here. Here are the points that correspond with that angle. Root 3 over 2 is cosine, negative 1/2 is sine. And our question asks us to find tangent. All right, so tangent we know is a quotient identity. So we should be able to find sine of 11 pi over 6 and divide it by cosine of 11 pi over 6. And that will give us our tangent, because tangents are not given on our unit circle, but we can always find them using our identities. All right, so on our unit circle, sine of 11 pi over 6 is negative 1/2. And cosine of 11 pi over 6 is root 3 over 2. All right, and so now we just need to simplify. Twos will cancel. I'm going to rationalize. So negative root 3 over 3 is tangent of 11 pi over 6. All right, so we can do the same thing with secant, same angle, so we're going to be using the same points for secant of 11 pi over 6, but secant is not given on our unit circle, so we have to use our reciprocal identities. All right, so secant is the same as 1 over cosine. And so we've already found cosine of 11 pi over 6. Root 3 over 2. All right. So we can do 1 times 2 over root 3, which is 2 over root 3. Rationalize. Secant of 11 pi over 6 is 2 root 3 over 3. Alright, what about sine of negative 2 pi? Alright, so let's go back to our unit circle. Here's 0. Notice that 2 pi is not written on our unit circle, but we know exactly how to get there. We just go all the way around and we get to 2 pi. So 2 pi happens at the same location as 0. This question, however, is asking about negative 2 pi. So how do we get negative 2 pi? Well, that means we just go in the opposite way around 2 pi units. So this is also negative 2 pi right here, the angle. Okay, so we know where we're located, right here. This is the point that we're using. And so we were asked to find sine of that angle. Sine is the y value, so sine of negative 2 pi is 0. Alright, so let's keep practicing. It says evaluate the 6 trig functions of the real number t. So t is 5 pi over 3. Luckily, that should be on our unit circle. So we have to find 5 pi over 3 on our unit circle. It's right here. And it corresponds to this point around the edge of our circle. Alright, so we want to find all 6 of our trig functions, so we can find sine of 5 pi over 3. That should just be the y value. So the y value is negative root 3 over 2. Okay, we can find cosine of 5 pi over 3 using our unit circle. That will be the x value. So that x value is 1/2. So sine of 5 pi over 3 is 1/2. And that is all we need to be able to find the rest of our trig function. So we can find tangent, right? So remember, that is a sine of 5 pi over 3 divided by cosine of 5 pi over 3. Alright, so I'm just simplifying. Okay, now let's find the other the other 3. Alright, we can also get cosecant of 5 pi over 3 just by flipping, excuse me, flipping our sign. So negative 2 over root 3, and then I'm just going to rationalize it. Alright, so if I'm going too fast, make sure you pause this video or rewind it to catch what I'm saying. Okay, and then we can do secant. That is just the reciprocal of cosine. And finally, cotangent. I'm just going to use the space down here. That is the reciprocal of tangent. And then I'm just going to rationalize this. So I get negative root 3 over 3.